When you see a headline about war in the Middle East, your gas pump reacts overnight while the price of milk or shoes barely moves for months. This disconnect leaves many wondering if their purchasing power has permanently shrunk or if this is just a temporary blip caused by distant conflict. We need to understand why energy prices act like lightning strikes on our wallets compared to other goods that move at a glacial pace. Today, we will explain the mechanics of supply shocks versus general inflation using first principles, showing you exactly what happens when global trade routes face disruption and how it impacts your household budget without fear, mongering, or financial jargon. The difference lies in how these markets are structured and traded globally. Energy markets react instantly during conflict because oil is a commodity that moves through pipelines and tankers across the entire globe with very limited inventory buffers when active fighting begins. Unlike other goods that face supply chain bottlenecks involving shipping delays, factory retooling, or labor shortages, oil prices are set by traders reacting in real time to any threat of disruption. This creates an instantaneous pass-through where price spikes hit consumers at the pump before they affect broader inflation metrics like wages or housing costs. When a conflict breaks out, that immediate scarcity forces prices up overnight because there is no time for local producers to ramp up output or find alternative suppliers quickly enough to stabilize the market. Consider oil as water in a pipe system where everyone needs it right now. If you cut one end of the pipe due to geopolitical tension, pressure builds instantly everywhere else along that line regardless of what happens downstream. In contrast, making bread requires flour which must be harvested and milled, ovens which need maintenance, and bakers who work specific hours. These things take months to adjust when demand shifts or supply chains get clogged. This fundamental difference explains why a headline about a tax can make your gas price jump 50 cents overnight, while the cost of shoes remains stable for weeks as retailers wait out the initial panic before adjusting their own inventory orders. The speed of reaction is dictated by how quickly the global market perceives risk versus how long it takes to physically produce and transport goods that are not essential in immediate seconds but can be stored or delayed without total system failure. Quick resource note: I keep a curated set of Amazon search links in the description for books, gear, and tools relevant to this channel's topics. Some are affiliate links, so I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you. Please consider supporting the channel by using those links if you find something useful. This rapid price adjustment creates a ripple effect through financial markets that often confuses investors who rely on traditional safety nets. According to data from an April 2026 report by the International Monetary Fund, we observed a critical structural shift where the relationship between stocks and bonds began to erode during these specific energy shocks. Historically, when energy prices spike hurting corporate profits, bond yields would rise, making borrowing more expensive while stock values fall, allowing investors to move money as a hedge from one asset class to another for protection. However, in late February 2026, global equity prices declined simultaneously with sharp rises in bond yields, meaning both major asset classes suffered at once, disrupting the usual safety nets for retirement portfolios and increasing volatility across financial markets. This means that during war-related energy spikes, your account might feel volatile even if news reports say the broader economy is okay, because the traditional diversification strategy of holding stocks to balance bonds may not be working as intended right now. The report highlights a critical insight. When global equity prices fall sharply at the same time bond yields rise due to these specific shocks, it signals that investors are fleeing risk assets and safety assets alike in search of liquidity or hard cash, rather than trusting either market segment for stability during this period of uncertainty. While core economies have absorbed these shocks, so far risks remain asymmetric, meaning not everyone gets hit with equal force across the globe. Emerging markets face immediate currency outflows as they struggle to pay for expensive energy imports that drain their foreign reserves faster than domestic production can recover or adjust prices upward quickly enough to compensate. Furthermore, non-bank financial intermediaries such as hedge funds and private equity firms using significant leverage are at risk of forced selling if volatility persists long enough to trigger margin calls on their positions. This creates a feedback loop where asset prices drop faster than the broader economy can adjust, creating short-term pain that feels disproportionate to the actual damage in real-world production, but which still has serious implications for borrowing costs and credit availability over time. The question of whether this is temporary or permanent depends heavily on how quickly supply routes stabilize versus how long conflict continues. If fighting de-escalates, energy prices can drop quickly because they are market-driven and respond to renewed confidence in global trade flows rather than waiting for factory output to increase like other goods do. However, prolonged conflict increases debt rollover risks for governments and businesses, which could keep borrowing costs higher for longer, meaning mortgage rates or car loan interest might stay elevated even after gas prices stabilize as lenders price in the ongoing risk of further supply disruptions. It is important not to panic. Sell your retirement fund based on today's gas price spike, because this represents a structural reaction to conflict rather than necessarily a permanent loss of purchasing power across all goods and services. The immediate pain at the pump does not mean every product you buy will become more expensive forever, but it does signal that energy-dependent costs like heating and transportation will remain volatile until global supply chains regain their footing through diplomatic resolution or new infrastructure investments that bypass conflict zones entirely. Understanding this timeline helps you make better decisions about whether to lock in fixed rates on loans now versus waiting for volatility to subside based on the specific nature of these market shocks, rather than general fear of inflation affecting every single item in your grocery cart simultaneously. Thanks for watching all the way to the end. I am a one-person team working hard to make each video better than the last. Subscribe if you found value. It is the best way to show support. Drop a comment with your biggest takeaway. See you in the next video.